As a mother, Michelle was awesome. I called her the picture girl. Pictures, pictures, pictures. She looked like $1 million, wear high heels and carry a baby on her hip. When she was a child, it was hard not to have a close friend relationship with her, even though I had to be the mom.
A woman has vanished from her Houston apartment. Her family and friends are fearing the worst.
I got the phone call from my son, and David said something's wrong.
Authorities say Warner's estranged boyfriend claims she stormed out of the apartment following an argument.
Mark Castellano was Michelle's boyfriend for a while. Mark and Michelle did meet at work.
She captivates a room when she walks in. That part about her is completely true. She mesmerizes people.
They had a son together who was Caden. Michelle was living with Mark the night she disappeared. We called the police. Everyone was searching.
We don't have a scene, we don't have a witness, we don't have evidence, we don't have a body. The more we thought about it, we kind of looked at each other and said, let's go back and let's search it.
So will you explain to me how you use the iPhone and FaceTime?
They tried to follow it like a treasure map.
Like that kind of thing, right?
Correct.
Well, it was in real time.
So you were
FaceTime.
FaceTiming?
Yes.
So it's like I'm aiming it at this tree here and you say, do I go to the right of the tree or is it more to the left of the tree? That kind of thing?
Correct. Exactly what I'm looking at right now.
A week went by. Michelle was still missing. We heard about Dr. Phil, and Mark Castellano was going on his show.
Today, we will take you inside a national news story as it unfolded in front of our cameras in real time.
Mark was going to be on Dr. Phil.
When he said he wanted to talk with you, what'd you do?
I got on an airplane, flew to Odessa, and there was a woman missing, and like everybody else, we wanted to help find her.
I'm staying strong for my son. I cry every once in a while.
But you're hurting inside.
Yes, I'm hurting inside. This is killing me.
Friends describe her as bubbly. Those same people describe you as psychotic.
Well, they don't like me too much. She has to be alive. I'm sorry, she does. She has to be out there.
If she is watching this right now, let's say
she can
she's,
come home.
what do you say to her?
We can fix this.
It was the worst week of my life. Michelle was just gone.
I'm Tracy Smith, tonight on 48 Hours. Gone. It's just about a 45-minute drive from the refineries of the Texas coast to the high-rises of downtown Houston. And in 2000, 20-year-old Michelle Warner moved to the big city. She was a new mom looking to make a fresh start.
Michelle did have the small-town girl in her, but Michelle always desired to go to the big city.
Donna Malone is Michelle's mom.
She loved to talk to people. She never met a stranger.
We were really, really close when we were young kids. I mean, really close.
Her brother, David.
From the time we were born, we did pretty much everything together. I was her child, not theirs.
She just grew into this beautiful swan, you know, and she had the long, pretty hair and a beautiful smile. She started going to college and started studying criminal justice.
But things didn't exactly work out. Michelle may have been a saint, but she was also a sinner. She married right after high school in 2001 and had a daughter, Haley. When that marriage went south in 2003, little Haley went to live with the ex-husband, and Michelle was on her own.
Michelle was a great mom, but she ran into some tough times in her life.
She fell in with a bad crowd. She even disappeared a couple of times. And she was arrested for possession of cocaine. But that was 8 years ago, and her family says Michelle's dark days were behind her.
She was finally turning around. She was no longer on any kind of drugs. She was going to work every day.
In 2008, she also began a relationship with a man she met at work, a man named Mark Castellano.
My impression of Mark from the very beginning was, what an odd duck. What a strange little man.
Mark Castellano and Michelle had met on the job. She was a secretary at a medical firm. He was the IT guy, you know, the person who fixed computers.
I absolutely do not know what Michelle saw in Mark.
He's always been, you know, a little off.
In 2009, Michelle and Mark had a son, Caden. But Donna says Mark Castellano wasn't much of a dad.
Caden was about 2 months old, and Mark just went away. I can't handle this. It's too stressful for me. Everything was always about me. Me, 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 me.
In those early days, life was tough for Michelle as a single mom, bouncing from job to job.
No child support. He did not pay any child support. Michelle was doing it on her own, struggling to do it on her own. It was very difficult for her.
Then, in the summer of 2012, she got a break, a new job at a law firm in Houston. All she needed was a place for her and Caden, now 3 years old, to stay. She reached out to the one person she knew there, Mark Castellano. He agreed to let them stay at his Houston apartment, but Michelle set down some rules.
When Michelle moved back in with Mark, the agreement between them was that they would live together, raise the child together, but not as a romantically involved couple.
But just 3 months after moving in with Castellano, on Saturday, September 22nd, 2012, Michelle was gone.
A woman has vanished from her Houston apartment. Her family and friends are fearing the worst.
When Michelle's brother David couldn't get a hold of his sister, he called Castellano and confronted him.
Do you have any idea where she may be? You're the last person I know of that's actually seen her.
Yeah, I am. But like I said, I don't know where the hell she went.
Castellano told David that he and Michelle had had a fight. She walked out and left her car and her toddler behind.
David was surprised to learn on the night Michelle disappeared, Castellano took Michelle's car and drove Caden more than 500 miles, over 8 hours, to his parents' house in West Texas.
Mark's story did not make any sense.
Almost immediately, Michelle's family filed a missing persons report. 5 days passed. Nothing. That's when Houston homicide detectives got the case.
Where are we?
We are at the apartment complex where Mark and Michelle live together.
Veteran Houston homicide detectives Phil Waters and Sergeant Brian Harris.
When you first came here, you went in, and what'd you do?
Went to the apartment. The family was there. Actually, it was interesting that Mark's story was what happened. You know, I mean, in terms of the story that he was telling everyone.
Castellano had told David in that phone call that he and Michelle had been arguing over Caden when she walked out.
All of the events leading up to it, the fight, all of that stuff that happened here.
Accurate, happened, at least what he's telling us. The only people in the scenario that are casting any kind of suspicion on Mark are Michelle's family. That's where all of that is coming from. And they're not saying things like, you know what, Michelle told me yesterday that if anything ever happened to me, it's Mark.
Instead, we
were getting, we don't like Mark. Mark's a bad guy. And it's more personality dislikes about Mark.
But back at the apartment, cops did find something strange.
We knew that Mark was an IT guy. He's a techie nerd. So then what becomes noticeable in the apartment, there are computers, but all the hard drives are gone.
The homicide detectives wanted to talk with Castellano, so they called him at his parents' house in West Texas. Turns out he had an unusual question for them.
He said, "Can I ask you a question, though? I need some advice." And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Do you think I ought to let Dr. Phil interview me?"
What'd you say?
Well, I was a little stunned. I said, "Dr. Phil?" And I said, "Absolutely, let Dr. Phil interview you."
As the week passed, the search for Michelle expanded quickly from Houston to West Texas, all the way here to Los Angeles and the Dr. Phil show.
Today, we will take you inside a national news story as it unfolded in front of our cameras in real time.
It was Dr. Phil McGraw, not the police, who would first interrogate Castellano about Michelle's mysterious disappearance.
Let's talk about the night she disappeared.
Okay.
You had a fight.
Yes, sir.
And was this a physical fight or an argument or both?
Basically, I come home, she's in her room. First thing she does is start yelling at me that Caden has made a big mess. We start fighting. She walks up to me and she gives me this kind of sucker punch while I'm on the floor. I mean, she hits me all the time and I don't retaliate, but she hit me and said, "And clean it up right, expletive, expletive," and she goes in and slams the door.
What was your first impression of him?
That he was a game player. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and he wanted everybody to know it. You go back in to resume the argument,
Right.
frankly.
Yes.
And
she's gone.
She's gone.
I would take her pictures out and say out loud, "Michelle, where are you? You know, just call me, text me, please."
More troubling information in the search for a missing mother.
No one has heard from Warner in a week.
Today, we're talking about the story of a beautiful young mother, Michelle Warner, who went missing after a violent fight with her ex-boyfriend, Mark Castellano.
From the very beginning, Dr. Phil McGraw felt there was something suspicious about Mark Castellano.
Why do you think Mark Castellano wanted to come on your show?
Well, you know, I think this guy is a narcissist. I mean, I really do.
She basically owns me in a lot of ways, and I admit that. I cave to Michelle 9/10 of the time.
Castellano was on the defensive.
He said to you, she could have just disappeared again.
Right.
That was a possibility.
He says it was a possibility. She could have gone in the bedroom, locked the door, gone out the door, and left. But her car's still there.
And her son is still there.
Her son is still there, her car is still there, but she's gone off the grid.
Meantime, in Houston, 500 miles to the east, the cops were searching the grid, trying to find Michelle.
We do something called the psychological autopsy. We start breaking down the person's life. And so that's what we're having to do with Michelle.
Back in West Texas, Dr. Phil continued his interview with Castellano. He had a hunch that those missing hard drives might be connected to Michelle's disappearance, so he grilled Mark.
You said you would show them to me when
Yes,
I came
yeah,
here
I have the
today.
drives.
Do you have them here?
Yes.
Can we look at them?
Yeah, I'll bring them to you. One second. No, I don't have them because he still has them. He's still copying them.
Okay, well, you can come back.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought he brought them back, but he didn't.
You said you were going to show those to us, and you got up and walked to the door and then said, "Oh, that's right, they're not here." But not 15 minutes before we got here, you told my producer they weren't here. You already knew they weren't here when you got up to go get them.
My mind is scatterbrained right now. I mean, I forgot.
I forgot?
Bells are going off right now. I'm talking to him, and I'm watching the theater of what's going on.
What was he doing?
You know, he's playing games here. To him, it's a manipulation, and I'm wondering why he's not putting all of his effort, all of his emphasis on finding Michelle. You know, my dad used to say, for every rat you see, there's 50 you don't. When he tells you that lie, there's 50 more.
Dr. Phil relentlessly peeled back Castellano's story.
He also admits throwing her cat down the hallway, throwing her cat into a wall, and that is very troubling to me.
Each revelation led him closer to the conclusion that Castellano killed Michelle.
Was there violence at that
There was
point?
violence. She and I would wrestle, push each other around. There was one time I choked her.
He admits to being violent with her.
He admits to being violent with her to the point of choking her. Now, think about this. If he, in fact, is culpable in her disappearance, why in the world would he admit that?
So let's look at the moment when you asked him the big question.
It's really odd for a mother to just not check on, find out anything about a child. If you think something has happened to her, why aren't you looking for her?
I mean, as far as everybody has exhausted the leads that I have, I don't know where else to go. The police are looking for her, they're professionals.
Did you do anything to her that would be considered foul play or criminal?
No, no.
Did you kill her?
No, sir.
So, as you left, where did you stand with Mark Castellano? What did you think?
It is clear in my mind, I'm not believing a word he is saying. When I walked out the door, I said, he killed her. No doubt about it.
You said it then.
He killed her.
But Castellano hadn't confessed to anything. After Dr. Phil returned to LA to get his show ready for broadcast, detectives brought Castellano in and turned up the heat.
This is where it happened, Houston Homicide Division. Here in the interview room, it wasn't exactly what you might think. There was no tough guy posturing, no rolled up shirt sleeves, guns on the hip, no raised voices. It was pure psychology.
I was like, Phil, when you go in there, it's like walking into a minefield because, one, you don't want to upset him and make him angry, where all of a sudden he says the L word, lawyer, or he says, I want to leave.
Detective Waters takes the lead.
Okay, so the first thing, you're not under arrest. And again, I've told you, I certainly appreciate you coming here and talking to us.
I want Michelle to be found.
Spending a lot of time here.
I want Michelle to be found. That's what Castellano just said. That's his story, and he's sticking to it.
Have you tried to call her?
At this point, no. I don't want to call her.
This was it. This was it. We had no evidence. We had nothing. So all this stuff is going on.
So Detective Waters started looking for motive. If Castellano was a killer, did something push him over the edge?
Pressure's building.
The pressure's building on me, yes.
Got it.
When she gets mad, she's violent. She'll hit you. She thinks she has the right to. You know, man has to take up crap. She's a pretty girl, and she gets everything she wants. She has a princess attitude.
Wow.
But,
that princess attitude phrase was a flag for detectives, an insight into how Castellano viewed the relationship.
We kind of get a flavor for your relationship, and this is just my impression, is that when it's good, it's like intensely good. But when it is bad, it is intensely bad.
Yeah.
Detective Waters' approach? No tough questions, yet. He's trying to get Castellano to trust him.
Let's get to last Saturday, the 22nd.
Okay.
And what's your
walks out and slams the door to her room. And about 10, 15 minutes later, I open the door to say, well, you know what? And she's gone.
She's gone.
Once that narrative was complete and he felt like he had told his story, it was at that point that I'm now going to confront you. I need you to explain to me what happened. This is a dance. I'm letting Mark play the music. And then at one point, another song comes on, and it's mine. And now the dance changes. We both know, Michelle did not walk out of that apartment.
I don't love her. I'm not in love with her. I mean, I don't want anything to happen. I wish Michelle would pop up right now and go, hey, when she gets mad, she's violent. I don't care what anybody says she is. I said something about, did you take too many pills? You can't watch Caden or something.
Detective Phil Waters sat for hours talking to Mark Castellano, gaining his trust.
But she was like, I can't tolerate Caden. She was like, I need help with him. She's like, he's driving me nuts.
Waters finally discovered a way to bring out the truth about what happened that night.
You brought up Caden.
Yes. So your concern for Caden is mainly centered on when Michelle is the primary caregiver. Caden was the most important part of his life. So I knew that I was going to have to frame whatever he did in that apartment in that context.
That context, getting Castellano to admit his actions that night were to protect Caden.
It wasn't about hurting Michelle. It was about the love and the strength of that love that you have for Caden and protecting him from anybody that would threaten or hurt him. And that's what you're going to have to explain now.
The strategy worked.
So I want you to be honest with me and tell me what happened.
When he took his glasses off, I went, here it comes.
You knew?
I just knew it.
She's getting dressed. And she's finishing up. And she's still yelling, and Caden's hiding. I grabbed her and I broke her neck.
Boom. There he comes with it.
I'm sorry. Give me the death penalty, that's fine.
Look,
I deserve it.
Mark, look, I'm proud of you.
Life is over with anyway.
Your life's not over with, Mark.
I push her and then grab her and
But by the time Sergeant Harris came into the room, Castellano seemed to pull himself together and physically demonstrated how he killed Michelle. Castellano claimed Michelle's erratic and abusive behavior pushed him over the edge.
she'll hit you, she thinks she has the right to.
He painted this picture of Michelle as an abusive woman.
Yes.
When you talked to other people, did they say that she was volatile, she had a temper, she was abusive?
Everyone we talked to described her as not just family members, but as a loving mother.
Was there any evidence that Michelle was abusive to Mark?
Not anything that was documented other than Mark's story.
I'll be right back.
After his confession, he was left alone with his phone. But instead of calling a lawyer,
Hey, Mom.
he called his parents.
Well, I confessed, I did it.
He called his brother.
I'm sorry that all the facade that I put up for a week, but I can't take the guilt anymore.
A friend.
And I wanted you to know that she's dead.
He even talked with Dr. Phil's producer.
It was a moment of rage. I couldn't take it anymore. I pretty much confessed to everybody I can think of.
Well,
Castellano had also told Detective Waters what happened moments after he killed Michelle as he stood over her body, lying on the bed.
He said that Caden walked in and said, "What's wrong with Mommy?" And he turned around and his response was, "Oh, she's taking a nap."
He put Caden in a bath and then dragged Michelle's body into the closet. That's when he loaded Caden into Michelle's car and drove through the night over 500 miles to West Texas. He left Caden with his parents, turned around, and drove all the way back to Houston, back to the apartment where he had left Michelle.
How did he get her out of the building?
He packaged her up in a large container, plastic container, and duct taped her hands and feet, put a bag over her head. He said he explained that he put the bag over her head because he was tired of looking at her.
He was tired of looking at her.
Tired of looking at her.
With the container loaded in the back seat of Michelle's car, Castellano once again made that long drive back to West Texas. Outside of Midland, he buried Michelle in a shallow grave.
It turned out Michelle's body was somewhere out here in these endless West Texas oil fields. Castellano had drawn a map and given police a rough idea of where the grave was, but it wasn't a good enough description. The key to finding Michelle's body was as close as an iPhone.
Hello.
Hi, Sergeant Harris, it's Tracy from 48. Well, you can see that, right?
Harrison Waters stayed in Houston with Castellano, while local police and FBI agents tried to locate Michelle's body with the map, but it only got them in the general vicinity.
So they called us in the interview room, and we decided to try the FaceTime.
FaceTime is the Apple iPhone's video phone. You can see and hear whatever the person on the other end of the line wants to show you.
Mark was actually speaking to the detectives, and they were holding their phone out.
Like that kind of thing, right?
Correct. And he was able to see than they did much what we're doing right now.
Just walking around, aiming it.
Correct. And so they panned the area, and then he told them to stop, and he directed them towards, it was like more of a big scrub brush. When they got closer, that's when the FBI agent, we could hear her say, "I found her, I found her."
With the discovery of Michelle's body, Castellano was finally arrested and charged with murder 8 days after Michelle went missing.
In an exclusive interview,
Dr. Phil's show went on TV a few days later.
Mom vanishes, the killer confesses.
Until Mark's confession, Caden had been staying with his relatives, but now authorities moved him in with Michelle's family. With Castellano behind bars, I got the chance to confront him. And what he told us was a brand new version of what happened that night.
Hi, Mark. I'm Tracy Smith from CBS News 48 Hours.
From the start,
You okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Mark Castellano had told everyone
She's gone.
She's gone.
Yes, sir.
lies. So we wanted to set the ground rules before our interview.
So here's the thing, Mark. You lied to the cops, you lied to Dr. Phil, you lied to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Why should we believe you now?
There's no point to lie about anything. I don't like lying. I don't like lying at all. It's not me. I'd rather just go ahead and tell the truth and get it over with.
Are you telling me the truth now?
Yes, of course I'm telling you the truth.
The first thing Castellano wanted to tell us
We got into a fight. It just happened all wrong.
was that he was not a murderer.
It was, not my finest hour.
Not your finest hour?
No.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, the whole thing wasn't my finest hour, but like
He says, yes, it was true. The couple had a fight that night, but he was the victim.
It got violent.
Well, yeah, they always get violent. She beats the hell out of me. I've been beaten by this woman for a long time.
But this time, Castellano says he'd had enough. Remember, there's never been an official report of abuse in this case.
So did you just snap?
To retaliate back from her swinging at me? Yeah, I snapped her, hit her back. This time I was tired of being hit, and yeah, then I was going to defend myself this time around.
So you threw stuff back and forth and then you grabbed her?
I didn't grab her yet. She threw another punch at me.
And then?
That's when I grabbed her and lunged forward.
This is where Castellano's story changes.
I grabbed her and I broke her neck. I'm sorry.
From his confession to the police.
So I want to go back to this confession. What actually happened that night?
That's what we don't really talk about.
That's Castellano's lawyer.
At all?
Telling him not to reveal all of what happened that night. Still,
I should have done this, I should have done that.
he did tell us a few details. Castellano now says it was all an accident. In the struggle, he says Michelle died when he ended up falling on top of her neck.
Michelle's death was my fault because I'm the one that fell on her.
That fell on her?
Yes, I did fall on her. She just, like that. I mean, she was just lifeless, and all of a sudden, her body let go, but it was an accident.
Michelle's mother, Donna Malone, can barely contain her disgust.
First of all, I will never believe it was just an accident. You don't just an accident murder someone and feel nothing.
You drive a car and you hit somebody. Did you want to hit them? No. You're like, it was an accident. You might be at someone's house and they just have brand new carpet put in and we're eating velvet cake and you drop it on the floor. Did you want to do it? No. You feel bad about it? Yes. But still, accidents are accidents. They're not planned. That's why they're called accidents.
That tear was the only time during our interview that Castellano showed any emotion.
He's a liar. Comparing it to spilling cake on someone's floor, but to murder someone, that's a violent act.
Did you choke her?
No, I didn't choke her.
But you said you were angry.
I was very angry.
You said you snapped.
Yeah, to go ahead and actually raise my hands against her, I had a gun. I've always had a 9mm. If I really wanted to kill Michelle, I would have shot her. I would have taken my gun and shot her.
That he could just have shot her if he wanted to kill her, that's just nonsense talk. It's nonsense.
What did you do with Michelle's body?
It stayed in the closet. You know, I looked at her and it was just like, oh my God. So that's when I put the bag over her head and I put her in the closet.
Why the bag over her head?
Because just her face, the way he was frozen, I knew I messed up.
Did it occur to you as you were handling her body that this was the woman that you loved? This was the mother of your child?
I did. It did. And I also know I couldn't bring her back.
3 days later, Castellano would dump Michelle's lifeless body in that shallow grave.
How do you feel about misleading people for so long?
Well, it was a tough call. It was a very tough call. I didn't plan on getting away with this. If I had planned on getting away with this, I would have got away with it.
I feel very angry about the fact that Mark lied to all of us. He could have just told the truth from the beginning. It was obvious that everyone was on to him. Family, law enforcement. Why not just tell the truth, get it over with?
She did attack me first.
The more Castellano talked, the more it seemed he was angry with women.
I mean, women are now, y'all are replacing men in a lot of aspects. Y'all are becoming the big-time aggressors. Women are now the new aggressors. She's beautiful, and you're a beautiful woman yourself. Life's a little easier for women like you because people just can't put bad things with pretty people.
It sounds like you resent that a little bit, Mark.
Well, when you sit there and have been told that when you're not a pretty person that, you know, life's gonna suck for you, man.
Mark Castellano's bizarre answers during our jailhouse interview raised more questions about what makes him tick.
I'd rather just go ahead and
So we wanted to talk more about it with Dr. Phil.
I gotta say, I really screwed myself over the way I confessed everything because, first of all, I didn't really describe everything accurately. And second of all, I didn't really think every word I was gonna say was gonna be used completely out of context, which it was in a lot of ways.
He's criticizing the process. Things were taken out of context. Well, here's the context. Did you kill her or did you not? I think this guy has such an inferiority complex, and that's one of the things about narcissism. There's a false sense of superiority, but it's a false sense of superiority.
The truth is, they really feel inferior.
They really feel very inferior, very put upon, and he felt very much that he had reached above his level with Michelle. And
that she was out of his league, so to
out of
speak.
his league. She was way over his head. In this instance, she did not reject him. He had the ultimate rejection of her.
What do you think his motive was?
I think this guy is very hedonistic. I think this relationship was on the downslope. I think it was falling apart, and I think he felt her slipping away. I think it was one of those situations where if I can't have you, nobody will.
Come up.
At his trial, Castellano's attorneys will present his new version of what he says is the truth.
We, the jury.
But will the jury buy it?
It was very hard to wait on the trial. We wanted some form of justice for Michelle. We felt that we were building up to this pinnacle that would bring us some sort of peace.
May 27th, 2014. Mark Castellano is on trial for the murder of Michelle Warner, the mother of their son, Caden.
This is a case about obsession, rage,
Assistant District Attorney Jamie Reyna.
and this defendant's calculated attempts to get away with murder. He became so upset with Michelle that he grabbed her by the neck, that he started to choke her. He started to squeeze her in the neck. You'll hear him tell those officers he choked her for 1.5 to 2 minutes.
We'll call investigator Phil Waters.
At the center of the prosecution's case, Mark's own words, that videotaped confession to Detective Waters.
And we both know, Michelle did not walk out of that apartment. So I want you to be honest with me and tell me what happened.
I grabbed her and I broke her neck.
Okay.
The state medical examiner testifies Michelle was strangled.
High up in the neck.
Her hyoid bone, just beneath her jaw, was broken. Mark Castellano does not take the stand. Instead, his lawyer, Eric Davis, presents that very different story. Michelle's death was an accident.
She comes at him and he grabs her and he's controlling. And he falls down with his weight on hers and hears the pop. When he reached out to defend himself, to protect himself, he didn't anticipate that she would fall and break her neck.
I didn't find any real evidence that the throat was disturbed.
An expert for the defense, a forensic engineer, testifies Mark's accident story was a possibility.
There's no physical evidence that shows any type of squeezing or sideways forces. All of the physical evidence shows is forces applied from the front.
So what's the detective's reaction to Castellano's defense?
Is that possible, that he fell on her and that's how her neck snapped?
No.
The problem is that you cannot accidentally strangle someone for 1.5 to 2 minutes.
Show me what you think he did, what he told you he did to Michelle. What did he do?
He's so mad he follows her in the bedroom. And he goes, and whatever takes place, he reaches out, and he's just grabbing her. For 1.5 and 2, he's grabbing her. And she has nowhere to go.
If Castellano thought the jury might take pity on him, prosecutors would present more evidence that shows the actions of a cold, callous killer. Weeks after Mark's confession, detectives discovered a chilling piece of surveillance video.
So that's their apartment right over there. And across the way on that building there was a camera. And that camera showed a shadowy view of the back stairs of Castellano's apartment. So he drags her body in a bin down the stairs.
You see him stop, and he has worn himself out. He even says when he's on the phone with people that he's confessing to, you know, Michelle had gained a lot of weight. So it was really an exercise to bring her down the steps and put her in the car.
As for those hard drives that seemed to be so important in the early days of the investigation, turns out they weren't relevant to the case.
If you cannot remain composed when the verdict's read, you should step outside at this time.
After more than a week of testimony, 19 witnesses, and 6 hours of deliberations, a verdict, ending an anxious wait for Michelle's family.
If you'd stand, please, Mr. Castellano. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
Mark Castellano, guilty in the strangling death of Michelle Warner.
I was very pleased with the fact that he was declared guilty. I said, okay, good. They did this quickly. So I believe that this is in the hands of a good, solid jury, and they'll do the right thing.
The next day, Michelle's loved ones are back in court for Castellano's sentencing. Ironically, it's also Michelle's birthday. She would have turned 33.
Each side will be given 25 minutes to argue their case.
Mark Castellano's attorney begs for mercy and argues his client's much-talked-about confession was a show of remorse.
I'm sorry.
Crime was solved because of a man's conscience. In fact, if Mr. Castellano had kept his mouth shut, we wouldn't be here. But he did what most criminals don't do. He told on himself. No matter what you do, he's going to the penitentiary. The question is, how long?
Michelle's family wants to see Castellano receive the harshest penalty, life in prison.
I do not think that he has any sense of remorse. None. I hear nothing but excuses that it was Michelle's fault that he did what he did. And we all have free choice, and he chose to kill her.
The jurors spent 4 hours debating his fate.
All rise for the jury.
Finally, a decision.
The jury, having found you guilty of murder, you are now sentenced to 27 years in the institutional division of the Texas Department.
The sentence feels like a slap in the face for Michelle's family.
One word went through my mind when I heard 27 years. Seriously?
After several months, it's still impossible for the family to understand the jury's decision.
I don't know what happened in the room while the deliberation was going on, because I've not had not one juror come forward and speak to me. I do not feel that I got closure for my daughter's death, and neither does any of the rest of her family. None of us do.
Now it is up to Michelle's family to explain to 2 kids, a daughter living with her ex-husband and little Caden, why their mother is gone.
It's like taking your entire world and flipping it over. You don't expect anything like that to ever hit that close to home for you, and it's turmoil.
I miss the laughter that I shared with her, and I just miss the conversation. I can't have that anymore, and that's very sad. It's very lonely. It makes me feel lonely. So it's an empty hole that will always be there for the rest of my life, and that's a hard thing to swallow.
The morning of February the 15th, I got up early, brought my wife coffee in bed, and then we had our Valentine's celebration. I gave her a card, she gave me a card.
I think that the Valentine's Day was always a very special day for her.
He painted a picture of lovers. He talked about how sweet and caring and tender they were with each other.
She wrote me a card, said I was the most important person in her life, and she loved me very much that morning.
After the breakfast, Alec McNaughton told us that he went to his mother's house in Sandy Springs, Georgia, about 35 miles away.
Hey, baby, it's me. I'm leaving Mother's house. I love you. Bye.
Alec said that when he arrived home that evening, he found that all the lights were off.
I walked through the house, I called out her name. I turned the corner and went to her office, and I saw her on the floor. I saw blood under her arm, blood on the wall, so I called 911.
911, what's your emergency? I need help right now. I just got home. My wife's on the floor with blood all over her, and I don't think she's breathing.
When I walked in, the first thing I noticed was cast-off blood that ran up the wall. I noticed that there was a large pool of blood on the floor around her body, and I could see cuts in her clothing, and I could see, open, gaping wounds where she had been stabbed on her torso.
My sister called me and she was frantic, and she basically said that the Coweta County Police Department needs us to come down, that something's happened to Mom.
I called my mom's phone, no answer. Called the house, no answer. Called Alec's phone, he answered. He was crying, and I said, Alec, what's going on?
Your mother.
He's like, your mom, like he couldn't finish what he was saying.
Your mother's gone, honey. Your mother's gone.
I got another call from my sister, and again, she was frantic, and she said, Mom's dead, Mom's dead. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was in complete shock. I felt paralyzed. It was unreal.
When they conducted a search warrant on the house, they began to find evidence.
We did come upon a place in the back of the closet. There were some objects there that were separate. They weren't shoes, they weren't clothes. It was a bag and some cameras.
It was a critical piece of evidence. She did, in fact, speak from the grave.
I'm Richard Schlesinger. Every picture tells a story.
When I first walked into the home, there wasn't any signs of forced entry. There were no broken door locks. Drawers weren't pulled out. Clothing items hadn't been tossed around the house.
Criminal investigator Jason Fentner was only 29 and had just started working homicides in Coweta County, Georgia, not far from Atlanta.
Miss McNaughton was wearing jewelry, gold and diamond jewelry on her person that had not been broken or ripped off or stolen.
This was his first major murder case, and it was a doozy.
It looked like a horror house that you might go in on Halloween.
Kathy McNaughton had been stabbed more than 30 times.
What took place? What kind of murder?
But she was a most unlikely victim.
By all accounts, Miss McNaughton was a really nice person with no enemies. Everybody loved her.
She was definitely chatty, very chatty. We called her Chatty Kathy.
Michelle Mendenhall is Kathy's youngest daughter.
She always saw the best in people, always gave people the benefit of the doubt.
Kathy had retired after a long career at Delta Airlines and was in training to join an investment firm.
She worked from the bottom up at Delta when she started.
So your mother was really sort of a self-made woman.
She was. She always was independent, financially independent. She used to always say, don't rely on a man, you know, financially.
But emotionally, she was not as independent as she would have liked. After nearly 21 years of marriage, Kathy got a divorce.
I don't think she thought in her middle age she'd be divorced.
Heather Mendenhall is Kathy's oldest daughter.
It's kind of like I'm 50 years old and, you know, I'm lonely.
Her two adult daughters were on their own. Kathy dated, but there was no one special.
She wanted to be happy and grow old with somebody.
She went looking for love online. And that's where Kathy met Alec McNaughton, a lawyer from Enid, Oklahoma.
She was intelligent, she was well-read, well-traveled. We had a lot of those things in common. I mean, love is something that just happens. There's not a whole lot of logic to it sometimes.
Alec McNaughton was 55. He'd been married 3 times, and Kathy fell for him quickly and hard.
They had dated for about 5-6 months, and then they were already talking engagement. We definitely questioned, like, Mom, don't you think this is a little too fast? And she'd just be like, well, you know, he's it. He's it. He's my soulmate.
And then, on November 15th, 2004, less than 1 year after they met, Kathy and Alec became husband and wife.
It was a small wedding. My mom wore a big white dress.
Was that out of character for your mother? I mean, did she do things quickly, impulsively?
No.
So what did you make of this?
I thought that she was happy.
There were some problems. McNaughton told Kathy he was having trouble getting his Georgia law license, so he became a car salesman. But they managed.
How was the marriage?
Very good.
You were happy together?
We were.
But the good times ended when McNaughton's daughter, Alexis, from a previous marriage, was killed in a car accident at the age of 22.
This girl was a showstopper. Columbia University, women's studies major, had interned with Hillary Clinton. She was going somewhere.
What did that do to you?
Well, it almost killed me. I went into a depression.
Did that affect your marriage?
Yeah, it affected me, and you don't recover from something like that. My wife saved my life.
And when police questioned him after the murder, McNaughton told them he and Kathy were still very much in love.
I loved her to the depths of my heart.
He told me that he didn't know what happened to his wife and that he wanted to find out.
But I want you to find whoever killed my wife, okay? You know we will.
Police spent hours with an emotional McNaughton over the next couple of days.
I got nothing. Ever. My life's over.
It was important to go over the details involving his daily activities so that we could exonerate him and move on to find out who did murder his wife.
McNaughton told police where he had been that day.
He said he left his home sometime around 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. that day.
He said he went to his mother's about an hour away, and he had left Kathy this message on their home answering machine saying he'd arrived there.
Hey, honey, it's me. I'm up at Mother's. I love you, baby. Bye.
McNaughton also told Fettner that he did not return home until 7:30 p.m. when he discovered his wife's body.
He was very specific about the time frame that he gave to the authorities.
McNaughton seemed to have a solid alibi. He was cooperative and had willingly locked himself into a timeline that investigators could now check.
He was allowed to leave the sheriff's office, and I believe he went and stayed with his mother.
As the victim's husband, of course there was reason to suspect McNaughton, but there was no physical evidence against him.
I didn't see any blood on him. There was no blood on his hands, there was no blood on his clothes.
Jason Fettner had to figure it all out.
What you've got is no murder weapon. You have a husband that's a former attorney that says he didn't do it, and a woman who's been stabbed to death. It's not your traditional crime scene.
And there was one other thing to consider. Kathy's ex, who lives in Texas.
That's true, she does have an ex-husband.
It was their wedding anniversary that day. He was in town that day. What was his motive? He's jealous.
Long before Kathy met Alec McNaughton, she was married to an airline pilot, Gary Mendenhall, and their daughter, Heather, remembers a happy childhood.
I think that we were a pretty typical American family. 2 working parents, 2 kids, lived in suburbia, good schools.
But the relationship was troubled. Eventually, Kathy and Gary divorced, and he moved to Texas.
From time to time, Mr. Mendenhall would come to the Atlanta area on business or to visit with his daughters.
Sheriff's investigator Jason Fettner.
And he happened to be in town on the day after Valentine's Day.
The day Kathy McNaughton was murdered.
And one of the first things Mr. McNaughton did is begin throwing out a list of people that he, quote, highly suspected.
I think somebody that knew her went there with that purpose.
Gary Mendenhall was on McNaughton's list.
Tell me what you told the police.
I said, look, I can't imagine who would kill Kathy. She's nice and sweet. The only person I know she's ever had a problem with is her ex-husband.
Fettner called Mendenhall in for an interview.
What is your relationship to Kathy McNaughton?
I'm the ex-husband. I was married to Kathy for approximately 21 years.
Why did you get divorced?
For irreconcilable differences.
As they talked, Fettner noticed something interesting about Mendenhall. He had a cut on his hand.
What happened to your thumb?
Right there, I was cleaning up Heather's apartment here yesterday and washing the countertop, and I caught some kind of rack she had there. Tore it up.
It takes forever for those to heal.
Oh, I know.
When you stab somebody 31 times like the killer murdered my wife, your hand slips down the knife and you cut your hand. Gary Mendenhall's dominant right thumb was cut.
And there were some other potentially troubling things about Mendenhall, according to prosecutor Kevin McMurray.
He drove a silver car. There was a silver car seen at the residence.
A silver car was seen leaving Kathy's home the day she was murdered, and Gary Mendenhall had rented a silver car that very day. But Alec McNaughton also drove a silver car. 2 men with 2 alibis. Rookie homicide investigator Jason Fettner had his work cut out for him.
I'm looking at it and saying, I need to make sure I run down all these different leads.
The first priority was figuring out when Kathy McNaughton died. The medical examiner could not establish a time of death, so police turned elsewhere.
From the phone records, we determined that Kathy McNaughton had a call from inside her house to her friend in California, and that phone call ended at 11:55. So we knew Kathy McNaughton had to be alive at 11:55 a.m.
McNaughton had already given investigators a detailed account of his whereabouts that day, and he told them he left home between 11 a.m. and noon. Alec McNaughton also told investigators he was at his mother's house about an hour away when he left Kathy a phone message at about 2:30 p.m. There's one problem with that story, though. That cell phone tower right over there, tower number 309.
The critical piece, the piece that matters, is that cell phone call was originated on Tower 309, a tower that is less than 2 miles from his house. And that tower is 40 miles from his mother's house. So Mr. McNaughton is not at his mother's house when he's calling his home phone.
Investigators believe they had caught McNaughton in a lie, and they wanted to know why an innocent man would be lying about the day his wife was murdered.
Where were you when you made that call at 2:33? And think about this, because it's important.
I was at my mother's house.
The police were quite certain when they found these cell phone records that they had caught you in a lie.
That's right, and they made a big deal about me lying, and I didn't lie about anything in this case.
McNaughton insists the phone records, no matter what they show, are just plain wrong. But Fentner was starting to poke more holes in McNaughton's story. Listen to the 911 call.
She's not moving, and she's not breathing, and her eyes are not moving. She won't respond. There's blood on her hands and on the wall.
He claimed he was kneeling down at his wife's body, that he was touching her body, that he was tilting her head back and moving her body and trying to render aid to her.
I want you to kneel by her side.
Okay.
Close to her head.
Okay.
And bare her chest, okay?
Okay. I'm by her chest, okay.
Fentner wondered, why didn't McNaughton have any blood on him?
There was blood soaked into the carpet around her body. If you knelt down next to her body, it would be reasonable to believe you'd have blood on your pants, on your hands.
But McNaughton says it's more important that the police didn't find any scratches on his body when they looked. He says that helps prove he's innocent, since Kathy desperately tried to fight off her killer.
She fought for her life. Her hands were cut up from the killer's instrument, and her fingernails were broken off from fighting the killer.
But watch what happens when investigators even raise the possibility that McNaughton killed his wife.
You're full of I didn't kill my wife. I love my wife. She loved me. And I'm tired of the questions. So you either arrest me or take me home.
Police weren't ready to arrest anyone, but they were ready to clear someone. Very soon they concluded Gary Mendenhall had absolutely nothing to do with Kathy's death.
In fact, we actually got it down to an exact time frame where it's nearly impossible for one to believe that Mr. Mendenhall could have flown here from Texas, did the things that he did, murdered his ex-wife, clean up, get back, change clothes, and then meet with his daughters for dinner. The time frame didn't work out. It wasn't Mr. Mendenhall.
Fentner continued his investigation. He got an earful when he talked to Heather and Michelle about McNaughton.
They painted a picture of a selfish man that didn't like his wife that much. They said that he was argumentative, that he was very controlling and domineering.
At the same time, Fentner was being inundated with calls about McNaughton. Some of the calls were from people who knew McNaughton very well.
We received calls from his own siblings who called us and said, hey, I want to be off the record because I'm scared of him, but I think my brother did it.
His own family?
Correct.
If you talk to people in prison, if somebody gets arrested or accused of murder, the family turns against them 9 times out of 10.
Well, I don't know about that, Mr. McNaughton. I mean, I don't think my family would call and say he's a murderer.
I didn't think so either, Richard.
All of them expressed an extreme fear of Alec. And that's just something else that you add to this pile of things that are mounting against him. Why is everybody afraid of you?
Fentner was about to find out. The police found those 3 disposable cameras in Kathy's closet with unprocessed film inside.
We knew we had to find out what was on them.
They say every picture tells a story, and this one was a shocker.
Everything that my mom knew about Alec was all the good things, like everything that he had achieved, everything that he had acquired, his accomplishments.
At least that's what Heather thought. But in May 2006, a year and a half after Kathy married Alec McNaughton, Heather had a terrifying phone call with her mother that began with a dinner invitation.
She said that she'd love to come to dinner, but she couldn't. She sounded funny on the phone. I just, kept pushing her a little bit, and she said, I can't.
Soon, Kathy confided in her daughter and told her a shocking story that her husband, Alec McNaughton, had beaten her.
She was on her way to work, and he had violently followed her out to the car, opened the car door, and pulled her out and took her by the hair and was literally dragging her.
Dragging her by her hair?
Mm-hmm. He was in violent rage. She said that there's no way that she could be seen in public.
But McNaughton says he and Kathy had only a small argument over a car. He says he tried to grab the keys from Kathy in the driveway, and she fell off her high heels.
Well, she fell off her heels as we were struggling and skinned her elbow, I think, and her knee and her chin.
She fell off her heels?
Yeah, she stumbled and we fell. She got scuffed up.
What did you think?
I was frightened. I'm like, well, did you call the police? She's like, no, I did not call the police, and I'm not going to.
Instead, Kathy started her own investigation of Alec and even kept a secret file, notes and undeveloped photos in disposable cameras. Police found it all hidden inside her closet.
I took the 3 disposable cameras to a local developer here in the area. When I got it back, I was shocked. There were pictures of her doing this, holding her hands up. And there's a huge bruise on her face, and she's got bruises and scratches on her arms.
McNaughton has his own explanation for all the bruises. He says Kathy's ex, Gary Mendenhall, must have done it.
I just knew he had done that.
You're saying that Gary Mendenhall beat her up?
That's my opinion, yes.
But that was not investigator Jason Fentner's opinion. Heather told him that McNaughton had beaten Kathy, and Fentner knew those photos could be a key piece of evidence against McNaughton if the police could answer some crucial questions.
One of the first questions that came up then was, who took these photos?
The photographer had to authenticate the photos, say when the pictures were taken, and if Kathy said Alec had injured her.
How come nobody's called to say, hey, I took pictures of her when she was beaten up?
The police began searching for the photographer, but there were other important things in Kathy's closet, very damaging notes about shady financial deals, and worse.
She had written down that he threatened to kill me.
Prosecutor Kevin McMurray.
She describes all the lies he's told to her.
Kathy was on to him, but she was conflicted. She compiled this list of pros and cons about McNaughton, and despite the abuse, under pros, she wrote, sweet, loving, handsome. Under cons, she wrote, no sex, depression, bankruptcy.
Alec McNaughton told us that they had a perfect relationship, that they had never had any physical altercations, that they were deeply in love, and that they shared a wonderful marriage.
But that sure looked like a lie. Kathy's daughter, Michelle, says Kathy and Alec were having a lot of problems and argued constantly about money.
The marriage she basically was financing.
And then, one night, the couple's disagreements over money exploded into a loud argument.
I told you about your credit.
and Alec McNaughton taped it.
I always carry a tape recorder in my briefcase my whole career. She was out of control, so I just took my tape out so that if later on she said something, I'd just play it back and say, you lose your temper over minor stuff.
I could tell from listening to it that she did not know she was being recorded. You could hear Kathy screaming at the top of her lungs at Alec.
Investigator Jason Fettner says the recording backfired on McNaughton when Kathy began referring to the time she said he beat her.
She says, I've got pictures, I've got affidavits.
Yeah, that was right after we'd had the struggle in the driveway over the car, so I knew what she was referring to.
But as it turned out, this was not the first time McNaughton was accused of abuse, as Fettner learned after tracking down McNaughton's first wife, Linda.
And they said, Alec McNaughton has murdered his wife.
Linda McNaughton had divorced Alec nearly 40 years earlier.
And my stomach sank to my toes.
Despite the decades that have passed, she has never forgotten what she says her ex-husband did to her.
He beat me with his fist, with a Coke bottle. He broke my nose. He fractured my jaw. He beat me hard.
I never abused my wife or any woman ever.
The evidence against McNaughton was piling up. His past, that tape, the photos of Kathy's bruises, her notes, and those cell phone records that seemingly proved McNaughton was not where he said he was on the day of the murder. Fettner called McNaughton in for a follow-up interview, and the former lawyer sneered at the evidence.
I think the comment he made was, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that a jury would convict me on this.
Well, that's very different from I didn't do this and they're lying.
It is. It sounds like a challenge to me.
And on February 27th, 2009...
Stand up, turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Alec McNaughton was arrested and charged with murder for stabbing his wife Kathy more than 30 times. He was thrown in jail with no bail.
They railroaded me. They put the blinders on that night. That homicide detective in his very first murder case was overwhelmed. He didn't know what to do. And he decided it was me right there at the scene and never considered anybody else.
And now the prosecutors had one very big problem. They still had no idea who took those damning photographs. And without that crucial information, the law says the photos could never be shown to a jury.
We had to connect it to the crime. We had to be able to show that it was Mr. McNaughton who had done this.
All right. And the trial was about to start. As the murder trial of Alec McNaughton approached, prosecutor Kevin McMurray was haunted by the photographs Kathy McNaughton left behind.
It became obvious that Ms. McNaughton was making an effort to preserve what had happened to her.
But the law says if McMurray wanted to show those photos to the jury, he'd have to find the photographer. So he had to scramble.
For the longest time, we really ran into some dead ends. We took these pictures to witnesses and asked, have you seen these injuries? Did you take these pictures? Are you familiar with any of this? And time after time, the people closest to her said no.
The trial was only a month away, and McMurray was getting desperate. He finally turned to Delta Airlines, where Kathy had worked, to see if she had asked anyone there for help.
And that was the turning point.
It was.
At the point that I saw her, it was obvious she had bruises on her body.
Sandra Harmon was a counselor who did some work with Delta.
Kathy looked very disheveled.
Sandra says Kathy told her McNaughton had attacked her outside their home just the day before.
The first thing Kathy did when she sat down was to ask me if I would take pictures of her.
Sandra agreed to take the photos, and now found herself thrust into the middle of a murder trial.
Now, Ms. Harmon, did you have any confusion over whether or not she was talking about her current husband or someone that she had been previously married?
Oh, absolutely no confusion whatsoever. She was very clear.
And you understood it to be who?
Alec McNaughton, her husband.
She's lying if she says that my wife said that I beat her up.
McNaughton, who was a practicing lawyer, says Sandra's testimony is nothing more than hearsay.
Why would she make that up?
Because she's the star, Richard. She's the prosecution's star witness. She's the surprise.
She seemed like a liar to you?
People don't lie intentionally, but people get persuaded by the police when they're the star witness in a high-profile murder case. It happens all the time.
Those photos were powerful evidence, and McNaughton's defense lawyer, Michael Cam, could not make them disappear, even though...
This actually looks like I've cut this handkerchief in two. If you were
He happens to be a semi-professional magician. Cam says the law is a lot like magic, all about altering perceptions.
There was a complete lack of evidence. Clearly, this was a violent death. I mean, she had numerous stab marks. There was blood all around her, there was blood under her. He had no bruises. There was nothing to indicate that somebody had actually cleaned up the crime scene. There was no evidence of his DNA on her fingernails.
But the prosecutors had more damaging evidence.
Call your next witness.
They put all three of McNaughton's ex-wives on the stand. His first wife, Linda, describes what she says happened after she refused to have sex with him.
He then beat me badly
How did he beat you? Could you please describe that?
with his fist and with a Coke bottle.
She's lying. There's no witness alive that corroborates her story.
McNaughton's second wife, also named Linda, tells jurors what she says happened the one time she said no to her then-husband.
And he grabbed me by either shoulder and just slung me over into a glass-top dining table that fell over.
Were you scared of the defendant after he threw you?
I was scared of him before that.
Second wife, did you throw her into a coffee table?
I pushed her out of the way. She's exaggerating. She's not lying.
You saw Miss Ware?
But it is Susan Knox, McNaughton's last wife before Kathy, who tells the most frightening story. She says there was always tension between Alec and their daughter Alexis, but it got dangerous one night when McNaughton pulled out a shotgun.
I just said, Alec, what are you doing with that gun?
What was his response?
He said in a very slow, monotone voice, he said, I'm going to kill Alexis, and then I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to kill myself.
Alexis was in another room listening to it all and dialed 911.
Oklahoma City 911. Hi, I just woke up. My parents had had a huge fight last night, and I was listening downstairs, and my mom woke up, and my dad said he's going to kill us, and he's capable of doing that, so. Okay, we'll send an officer out there.
Officers calmed everyone down and took away McNaughton's shotgun.
That normal behavior?
Well, of course not. I mean, it's emotional behavior. My daughter's 18 and brilliant and beautiful and admitted to Barnard College at Columbia, and you know, her life's work is there in front of her, and she decides to drop out of high school.
Would you have shot her?
Of course not. I've never shot anybody in my life, not even a bird.
The testimony of McNaughton's three ex-wives is hugely important.
It was devastating.
Although McNaughton doesn't seem to notice.
He thought everybody loved him. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room, no matter what room he was in.
I'm showing you what's been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 10.
In this room, the courtroom, someone needs to explain McNaughton's side of the story.
I didn't kill my wife. I love my wife.
And Alec McNaughton decides there's no one better than Alec McNaughton.
You did not want him to take the stand?
I did not.
Did you tell him that?
Yes, and not so politely either. I said, you are so arrogant and unlikable, I'm afraid that you're going to blow it when you take the stand.
But McNaughton insists.
So when you heard them stand up and say, "We call Alec McNaughton," what was your first thought?
My first thought was, this is a rare opportunity.
My name is Alec McNaughton.
Alec McNaughton is either the smartest man in this courtroom or the dumbest.
You understand that you have a right to remain silent.
Yes, sir, I do.
The alleged killer is about to gamble his freedom on his way with words. He can't get death, but he could get life.
I hoped that Mr. McNaughton would take the stand.
As he takes the stand in his own defense.
He underestimates everyone else, overestimates his own abilities, and the result is he's easily trapped in his lies.
Defense lawyer Michael Camm wastes no time getting to the heart of the matter.
Alec, did you kill your wife, Kathy McNaughton?
No.
One question, that's it.
Cross-examination, Mr. McMurray.
Immediately, prosecutor Kevin McMurray begins tearing apart McNaughton's story about where he was on the day his wife was murdered.
He wasn't as smart as he thought he was.
McNaughton has always maintained that at 2:30 that day, he was already at his mother's house about an hour away in Sandy Springs, Georgia, when he called home and left a message.
Hey, it's me. I'm up at Mother's.
The cell phone records show he was actually within a few miles of his home.
You were not in Sandy Springs at 2:33 p.m. on February 15th, 2009. Isn't that true?
It's not true. I was at my mother's.
So those records are wrong.
They are.
That phone call was absolutely critical to this case from the very beginning, and it was Mr. McNaughton's fatal mistake.
McNaughton talked to police early in the investigation. Detectives poked holes in his story almost immediately, and prosecutors say McNaughton should have known better, considering he's a lawyer.
Had he not talked to the police initially, it would have been a very, very difficult case to prosecute.
And why did you talk to them?
Because I wanted to find out who killed my wife. And I would have done anything. And so that need to find out who had killed my lovely wife overrode my legal judgment.
But investigator Jason Fentner thinks McNaughton had another reason.
He did his best to mislead that dumb redneck investigator.
Who's that dumb redneck investigator?
I think that's me.
You told investigators that you had never hit Kathy McNaughton, but that wasn't true either.
It is true.
He clearly lied about a lot of things on the stand.
That is untrue, isn't it?
No, it's true.
I knew what the truth was.
Kathy's daughters, Heather and Michelle, watched McNaughton testify.
I can't believe my mom was married to someone like this. Who is this person?
I didn't hit her. I did not kick her.
Even his own lawyer can see the effect McNaughton is having on those in the courtroom.
I'm looking at the court personnel, and the expressions on their face changed, and they were giving me the...
There are times during that cross-examination that what Mr. McNaughton said in the face of the evidence was so preposterous.
There was a robbery.
There was a robbery?
Yes, sir.
Was there a TV missing?
No.
Was there a computer missing?
No.
Was her watch taken?
No.
I think everyone, myself included, sought to not visibly display our disbelief.
That's a lie.
McNaughton denies everything his accusers say about him.
She's lying. I did no such thing. That's not true.
McNaughton has had his say, and now the lawyers get their last chance to persuade the jury.
For the first time in my career, we have a case where the victim has spoken from the dead. She recorded what has happened to her with that man. And the evidence shows who killed Kathy McNaughton.
There were no calluses on his hands, no cuts, no bruises, no blood, no DNA. The only verdict you can render is Alec McNaughton is not guilty of any offense.
The jurors begin to deliberate on what looks to most people like an open and shut case.
Obviously, I was nervous.
That first night, the jury goes home.
The waiting and the waiting.
No verdict.
It was just torture.
And then, at the end of the second day, the jurors announce they've decided.
As to count one, malice murder, we, the jury, found the defendant guilty.
Guilty of murder. Alec McNaughton, the man Kathy once thought was her soulmate, is convicted of killing her, stabbing her more than 30 times in the home they shared.
Were you surprised when you were convicted?
Yeah, I was stunned.
Mr. McNaughton, come forward, please.
I still believe that justice will prevail, that my wife's killer will be found, tried, convicted, and executed.
This is a question I ask a lot of people in your situation. What does justice feel like?
It definitely doesn't do anything to fill the void. That she's not here, that we'll never physically see her again. I'll never hug her again. It doesn't help with those things.
It also doesn't answer one lingering question. How did a woman like Kathy, a strong woman with friends, family, and money, end up a victim of domestic violence?
I feel like if my mom had said one time's enough, maybe she'd still be here today, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
And even though it is Alec McNaughton who stands convicted, it is Heather and Michelle who are left feeling guilty.
For a good year, that's all I felt. Guilt and regret that I didn't say anything. And then I just kept it, to myself, that I didn't speak up when I had the chance. And, you can't, it was too late.
My name is Carol Dodge, and I am the mother of Angie Dodge, who was brutally murdered in June of 1996. And for 23 years, I've traveled every road there is, turned every stone there is, to find justice for my daughter.
As the officers arrived at the crime scene and found Angie Dodge laying on the ground, and it was obvious that there was a very brutal murder that had happened, a lot of blood. During the investigation, we came across a significant amount of DNA that we believe is from the killer.
Would you say that this crime scene provided really good evidence?
Excellent evidence.
For nearly 2 decades, police could not find a match to the killer's DNA. So in 2014, they went way outside the box and searched a public DNA database owned by Ancestry.com.
It led us to this Michael Essery Jr., who just happened to be a filmmaker.
Films of homicide, kind of a murder mystery filmmaker.
Then he cuts off her head.
My name is Michael Essery. I'm a filmmaker and was a suspect in the Angie Dodge case. Murderabilia.
It was then I knew it was a girl, and she was young.
Got me the reputation of being a person who is really into murder and things like that.
And I shoved her body over in the shower and just kept stabbing her.
It was pretty creepy. We had Louisiana State Police call him. He had agreed to come down to the state offices there in New Orleans.
The majority of the time that I was in the interrogation room, I just didn't know what they were talking about. They finally had to look at me and go, no, we think that you, Michael Ushery, we think that you're involved in this murder case.
My whole purpose is to find who killed Angie Dodge.
The ability to kill is obviously somewhere in all of us because it happens every day.
Grief has no time limit. I just can't let go. I can't let go of her.
Carol Dodge lost her daughter Angie when she was just a teenager.
She was just discovering who she truly was and wanting independence. She says, just let me grow up. Let me make my own mistakes. You know, you don't need to watch me. You know, you don't need to be my shadow.
It was the summer of 1996 in Idaho Falls, Idaho, a mostly Mormon community where neighbors knew each other by name and doors were rarely locked, says former Chief of Police Mark McBride.
But it was really a very quiet, peaceful town overall.
Just 3 weeks before her death, 18-year-old Angie got her own apartment in this house.
I saw her the night that she was killed. She said, it's so hard growing up. And she laid her head on my shoulder and we just kind of rocked back and forth. And I'm so grateful for that moment. Extremely grateful that my last words were that I love her.
The next morning, Angie didn't show up for work at a local beauty supply store.
We got a phone call at our 911 center about 11 o'clock in the morning. And one of her friends at work came to check on her, and the door was unlocked. She went in and she found a body laying there on the floor in a very bloody crime scene.
There were no signs of forced entry, but there were signs of a struggle.
You think she fought for her life?
Yes, I do.
Angie was stabbed and cut 14 times and left half naked. The killer ejaculated on her, leaving behind what DNA expert Greg Hampikian calls a pristine profile.
It's a single profile, complete identification, one man to the exclusion of everyone on the planet.
Police began collecting the DNA of dozens of local men and spent months interviewing everyone Angie knew, including this young man, Christopher Tapp. Although his DNA didn't match and Tapp denied any involvement, after more than 28 hours of interrogation over 23 days, Tapp confessed to participating in Angie's murder.
You were there, correct?
Correct.
Did you know Christopher Tapp?
No, had no clue.
Tapp told police that the night of Angie's death, he and two friends stopped by her apartment. During an argument, Tapp claimed one of his friends started stabbing Angie while he held her down.
You hold her down, okay, while she's being cut. You hold her down while she's being cut.
But when Tapp went before a judge, he pled not guilty of raping and murdering Angie Dodge.
I said, you beast, you horrible beast. How could he do this to my daughter?
Defense argued Tapp's DNA didn't match the killer's, but on May 28, 1998, it took a jury approximately 13 hours to reach a verdict.
Guilty.
Nearly 2 years after Angie Dodge was murdered, Chris Tapp faced his punishment, with Carol Dodge glaring at him.
You are guilty of the crimes of murder in the first degree and rape.
His sentence, 30 years to life. But the murder of Angie Dodge was still an open case. Chris Tapp did not match the DNA, and he wouldn't tell police who did.
I just couldn't understand why he would go to prison and take a life sentence and not give the other person up.
Tapp did give authorities several names, including someone named Mike.
How sure are you that his first name is Mike? I'm dead set positive.
But police could never make a DNA match, so the case went cold, but not for Carol Dodge.
I never stop looking for the actual person who matches the DNA.
By 2009, the killer's DNA had been entered into the National Criminal Database, known as CODIS. But there was still no match. So Carol called well-known DNA expert Greg Hampikian.
I had this message, they don't know who killed my daughter.
By then, there had been many advances in DNA technology. And so, with Hampikian's help, Carol Dodge pushed authorities to use a new controversial search process called familial DNA. It looks for anyone who may be related to Angie's killer.
Which means going into that database in Idaho of the convicted offenders and looking for a family member that might match this DNA partially.
Idaho doesn't allow familial searches in their criminal database, so Hampikian made an even more controversial suggestion: a familial search through public databases.
I'm the one that went to the Idaho Falls Police Department and the prosecution saying, we need to do this.
Imagine you're one of millions of Americans to open up a kit like this, spit into a test tube like this, and then send your DNA off to a commercial database. Well, now that database owns your DNA profile, and you may not realize it, but police may be able to access it.
We're interested in solving a crime, and we're going to use any technique we can that we can legally use.
In the summer of 2014, detectives searched a public DNA database owned by Ancestry.com. They got a hit.
I was told they got 34 out of 35 markers, I believe.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's a good investigative lead.
It was a close enough match to make Detective Patrick McKenna think they had found a relative of Angie's killer. So police got a warrant for Ancestry.com to reveal his identity. It was a man named Michael Usry Sr.
We know it's not that individual, or we would have had 35 out of 35 on that. So that's when we started doing research into the family.
That led investigators to suspect Usry's son, Michael Usry Jr. Detective McKenna wondered if this could be the Mike that Chris Tapp once named.
And then we started researching him, and the films that he was making. It was a little eerie to try to think that that could possibly be a solid suspect in the case.
I have to ask you this question.
Yes.
Do you have a particular interest in murder?
I don't have a particular interest in murder.
It sure seems like it based on your phone
I
contacts.
know it does, but no, I really have quite an aversion to it.
But authorities investigating the brutal murder of Angie Dodge weren't so sure.
Precisely at 2 o'clock, 3 gentlemen came to my door.
In December of 2014, more than 18 years after Angie's murder, Michael Usry Jr. was living in New Orleans when 2 detectives from Idaho Falls and a Louisiana State Police officer brought Usry to a state police office near the New Orleans Superdome and started grilling him.
They said, so what about your travels to Idaho? Have you ever been to Idaho? And I had, in fact. I actually went up there with some friends for just one night.
He was 19 years old back then, and he and his friends drove to Rexburg, Idaho, passing right through Idaho Falls.
Well, they were really interested in that.
I'm a little surprised that we were able to actually place him in Idaho Falls.
It was a big red flag for Detective Patrick McKenna.
It's kind of weird, but I just really didn't get it.
Then one of the officers pulled out a warrant and swabbed his cheek for DNA.
At that point, I went, hey, what's going on here, you guys? Should I get a lawyer?
Once they had his DNA, they drove Michael Usry home without any explanation.
I just basically stood on my sidewalk in a daze.
It was a call to a close friend that finally shed some light.
And he said, well, what's the case? What is this? And I go, well, they wouldn't tell me anything except that it was a high-profile murder case in Idaho Falls. So he gets on the computer, and within 20 seconds, he's like, oh yeah, this is the case right here. It's some girl named Angie Dodge.
The filmmaker, whose movie featured a convict describing how he stabbed a woman to death,
Watched her insides spill out all over the floor.
was now suspected of doing just that to Angie Dodge.
I mean, it was very much a case of an overkill. They stabbed her and cut her, and it was just a butchery. People were like, wow, what does this imply, for your career? For your life, for your family's name?
Usry remembers being terrified, spending days holed up at home, worried what police would do next.
Pretty sure that they were tapping my phone calls, possibly staking me out, certainly checking my computer searches.
But Usry knew he hadn't killed anyone, and he wanted answers. A local newspaper reporter showed him a copy of the warrant investigators used to obtain his DNA. And right there, the answer to the question, why him, dated back about 17 years.
And I went, wow, this is because of my dad?
The filmmaker's father, Michael Usry Sr., participated in a genealogy project at his local church. A sample of his DNA went to that public database, which was later purchased by Ancestry.com, and that's where police came across it.
There are 34 out of 35 LLs that match. It seems shocking to me.
34 out of 35 DNA markers sounds like a stunningly close match to Angie Dodge's killer. But the reasons police honed in on him instead of any of his other relatives are detailed in the warrant.
I told you what Mike is his first name, okay?
Remember, Chris Tapp told police a guy named Mike was involved in the murder. Police took to Facebook and found his profile. Bingo. Facebook showed Usry had friends living in the Idaho Falls area. And then there's Usry's films.
And then bludgeons her to death with this very hammer.
The more Usry read, the more furious he grew that anyone would think he was a killer. But even more troubling was the idea that Angie Dodge's killer might be someone in his family.
Just knowing that somebody in my family would possibly do something like that is disturbing. I mean, to say the least,
Michael Usry worried every day. He knew that Idaho Falls police suspected him of murdering Angie Dodge, and the uncertainty of what would happen next kept him up at night. Until January 13th, 2015, more than a month later.
They sent me an email and it says, Michael Usry Jr., we just wanted to let you know that your DNA did not match our crime scene DNA, something you already knew.
In an email from police, Michael Usry was officially cleared of the murder of Angie Dodge, but he was still thoroughly traumatized.
You were angry at Ancestry?
I was angry at everybody. The police, scientists, these database companies. How could they misfire so bad?
48 Hours asked Ancestry.com about Usry's experience. In a statement, they said they will not share any information with law enforcement unless compelled to by a court order or search warrant. Usry's case, they say, was unique and the only time they have received a formal legal request for DNA-related information. After what happened to Usry, Ancestry.com told us they took action. The public database used by authorities was made private and can no longer be accessed by the public or police.
Can't control fate and what happens to you, so I just figured that there was a reason for this happening.
Michael Usry decided he wanted to try and prevent it from happening to anyone else by making a documentary about his experience. He was shocked when Angie Dodge's mother was willing to talk. What he didn't realize is that Carol Dodge had an agenda of her own.
She's fairly certain that a killer is in my bloodline.
I remember Mike and I sitting down, and I said, okay, Mike, here's a piece of paper. Now I want you to write down from your great-grandfather to your grandfather to your dad, and he did me a genealogy sheet.
My grandfather, he had 6 other brothers. Carol just wonders, hey, maybe it's somebody you don't even know. Maybe it's an illegitimate son of one of your pappy's brothers.
Despite all that, Carol Dodge and Michael Usry have forged a rather odd, close bond.
You're a really special person.
You are too, Carol.
And after hearing Carol and Angie's story, the focus of Usry's documentary changed dramatically to Carol Dodge's search for her daughter's killer. He immersed himself in the case, starting with the man who had confessed, Chris Tapp.
How many times did you stab her before you let go?
That first time.
Usry quickly learned that Chris Tapp was now claiming his confession was forced. And the Idaho Innocence Project, headed by that DNA expert Greg Hampikian, was now working to set Tapp free.
Based on the DNA, is there any way that Chris could have been in that room?
No, not based on the DNA.
The more Carol Dodge learned about DNA, the more she questioned Chris's confession that he held Angie down while she was being stabbed.
It wasn't until I started studying science that I said it's impossible. How could Chris admit in doing what he said he did and there be no physical evidence?
But it wasn't just the science that bothered Carol Dodge. She believed Chris Tapp's confession was coerced by the detectives who interrogated him.
Come on, man. You're the heat of the moment. She's putting up the fight. Do you know you're caught? You're right there in the middle.
I watch it.
Right?
And it's so frustrating.
This was Chris Tapp when we first met. At 40 years old, he'd been inmate number 56265 for 20 years.
You look at that 20-year-old kid, and you realize, God, I was just an idiot.
Think hard about it. I know it's there.
Chris Tapp says his confession was a lie, a story fed to him by police and then forced back out of him on tape.
You can see him specifically pointing out facts to me or giving little innuendos.
This would be the stairs going up. Okay, so you went up these stairs. Okay.
Or hints of how the murder went down.
Well, it's a porch that goes outside.
It all started because Chris Tapp's friend, a man named Ben, who also knew Angie, was arrested in Ely, Nevada for assaulting a woman at knife point. To investigators, the crime seemed similar to the attack on Angie. So while Ben was in custody in Nevada, investigators brought Chris in for questioning.
Emphatically, I said I had nothing to do with it. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going there. I knew there's no way.
But instead of leaving it at that, Tapp, then just 20 years old, cooperated.
I felt like, trust them, they're not going to do anything wrong.
He doesn't know they can lie to him. And most innocent people have no idea that the interrogators can lie to you.
First, Tapp was told there was irrefutable evidence that his friend Ben killed Angie and that Tapp was there when it happened.
I'm pretty sure we know what happened and who did what, how, when, where, and why.
Tapp kept denying all knowledge of the crime.
Did you hear her scream or anything like that?
I wasn't there.
But detectives persisted, and even though he had a lawyer, Tapp kept talking.
And so when they offered you a polygraph, seemed like a good idea?
Yeah, seemed like a great idea. I had nothing to hide, no reason not to do it.
But Tapp was told he was being deceptive, and detectives promised him full immunity, no jail time, in exchange for the truth, as long as he hadn't participated in the actual murder. That's when Tapp says he started telling police what he thought they wanted to hear.
No, are you sure Ben's there?
Yes.
You're
Positive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Tapp told detectives he was there when Ben killed Angie Dodge.
You told him don't do it? Yeah. Okay, so did he have the knife then? Pardon? Yeah.
But just hours later, detectives learned that Ben did not match the killer's DNA. A desperate Chris Tapp started changing his story, blaming several other friends for the murder.
I continued to lie. I continued to give them story after story, and they should have just stopped. But they didn't.
But Chris, why didn't you stop?
I didn't think I could.
When none of the men he named matched the DNA, Tapp says police still refused to let up. After 23 days and 7 interrogations, Chris Tapp confessed to participating in Angie's murder, and authorities voided his immunity agreement.
You're holding her down, okay, while she's being cut. You're holding her down while she's being cut.
That's what was the end of it all. That's what brought me to prison.
Authorities have repeatedly dismissed Tapp's claims of a forced confession until an astonishing discovery would change the game. Never before seen videotapes of 7 polygraph exams administered to Chris Tapp. Tapes that convinced even Carol Dodge that Chris Tapp is innocent.
Chris Tapp basically just got railroaded.
Carol Dodge took on a new mission to free the man convicted of her daughter's murder and find the killer who left his DNA, even if it turned out to be a member of Michael Usry's family.
You always gotta have a little faith, gotta have a little hope. I haven't accepted this as my end.
I can't imagine spending one day in prison, let alone 20+ years.
Mike Heavey is a retired Superior Court judge who believes so strongly that Chris Tapp is innocent, he spent the last 4 years trying to prove it.
When you look at the interrogation videos, he knows nothing.
So, Chris Tapp, Ben,
he struggles
let it out.
For details.
Let it out. You're there.
Why? Because he wasn't there.
Heavey runs a wrongful conviction project called Judges for Justice and took on Tapp's case after watching the interrogation tapes.
I wasn't there. I wasn't even down the stairs. I wasn't nowhere around.
Judge Heavey became convinced that Chris Tapp had been coerced into changing his story an astounding 6 times and knew that something was missing.
I was concerned. He went from one day saying,
I wasn't there.
and the next day,
You're standing above her like this, like her head's right here. Yeah.
I'm at the crime scene and I stabbed her. I couldn't see how he made that jump. So I went back to look at the polygraph and my jaw just dropped.
Does it help to say that I'm nervous?
In between Chris's 9 interrogations, detectives administered 7 polygraph exams. All of them were recorded, but no one had ever bothered to look at the tapes because polygraphs are inadmissible in court, and the sound is barely audible.
Polygraphs are typically used to assess the credibility of the witness when they're done honestly.
And how was the polygraph used in this case?
This case was used to trick Chris Tapp into giving false testimony. Our polygraph expert says it was used like a psychological rubber hose to get him to implicate himself in the murder of Angie Dodge.
Judge Heavey says that detectives in the case broke the rules in the polygraph room and thought no one would ever notice.
The United States Supreme Court has held that it's improper to threaten. You can't threaten because it leads to false confessions. They threaten him with the gas chamber, being an accessory to murder, and being a conspirator to murder.
You're an accessory to murder. That's being charged with just life imprisonment. They get life imprisonment in the gas chamber.
They figured no one's going to look at the polygraphs, so it'll be hidden. No one will ever see it.
Heavey says Chris Tapp was brainwashed.
I'm scared. You're scared. The reason why is because you subconsciously remember.
Chris Tapp eventually comes to believe that the polygraph is an all-knowing scientific instrument that can read his subconscious and is telling the machine that he was at the crime.
Teacher, I wouldn't say this if I believed you were going to kill him. You got trapped.
Chris finally says, yes, I stabbed her because Ben threatened me. And then Chris said,
did I do it?
The police officer walks over and says, give me your hand, like he passed the polygraph. And that gets Chris Tapp 30 years to life, charged with the death penalty. Ugly stuff.
Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, scared. Scared. That's pretty much the day my life ended.
But Tapp never told anyone about what happened during those polygraph exams.
I didn't know what they did in the polygraph tapes was wrong. I didn't know. If I would have known these things 20 years, 15, 10 years ago, then maybe we wouldn't be here today.
Idaho Falls police deny any wrongdoing
I don't remember seeing him.
in their interrogations or polygraph exams.
Do you think the polygraph was used as a coercive tool?
Well, I don't know that was the intent. I think the intent is to find out the truth.
Over the years, the courts have upheld Tapp's confession as valid and admissible and not the product of coercive police conduct.
I don't think they were trying to cause harm. It wasn't any malicious intent, I don't think.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around what the police are thinking.
John Thomas is Chris Tapp's appellate attorney.
It's okay. You made a mistake. Just say, hey, I made a mistake. We got the wrong guy. Let's all rally around and let's get the right guy.
Mike Heavey was hoping that the newly discovered polygraph tapes would be enough for a judge to grant Chris Tapp a new trial.
Those polygraph videos are now new evidence. They're the wedge to get Chris in front of a judge to see the coercion that went on.
I hope he walks out a free man.
It's not often you hear the mother of a victim say that about the only man serving time for her daughter's murder.
True.
It was March 2017, and Chris Tapp was just 2 weeks away from 2 hearings that his lawyer, John Thomas, hoped would set him free.
We have too much evidence showing that Chris Tapp wasn't there.
Have you ever found DNA that matched Chris Tapp at the scene?
No.
But Police Chief Mark McBride maintained that given Tapp's confession, the absence of his DNA at the crime scene proved nothing. Then, in a stunning turn of events, the district attorney's office wanted to make a deal. Tapp's murder conviction would stand, but the rape conviction would go away, and there would be no probation.
Chris Tapp would just take his lumps on his 20 years and walk a free man.
Victory!
Tapp took the deal. That was in 2017. 2 years later.
I've got a full-time job, I'm married. I've actually become that productive member of society that I truly thought I could become.
Meanwhile, Carol Dodge never stopped hunting for Angie's killer.
I've done a lot of research on technology, and I was bound determined I was going to solve my daughter's case.
Not long after Chris's release, Carol got some help. New Police Chief Bryce Johnson says he already had his sights set on Angie's case.
I talked to all the detectives, and I kind of told them, let's not worry about what's been done over the past 23 years. We have one mission, it's to find out who left this DNA sample.
It wasn't easy, but 2 years later, there was news.
Today we are here to share developments in the homicide investigation of Angie Dodge.
On May 16, 2019,
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Chief Johnson told the world they had finally found and arrested the man who matched the DNA.
Carol inspired us all to try harder and to do better. The thing about Carol is she knew more about DNA than I knew about DNA.
What Carol knew is that this woman,
Good afternoon,
C.C. Moore, and a company called Parabon Nanolabs had been making huge strides in solving cold cases using genealogy and public databases.
This is our 56th case this year at Parabon using genetic genealogy to identify unknown suspects and victims.
Moore and Parabon were able to generate an even more complete DNA profile of Angie's killer than ever before. That profile could now be uploaded to a large public DNA database called GEDmatch, a free website that allows people to upload their own DNA profiles in search of relatives. In return, if users opt in, their data can be accessed by law enforcement.
When we upload that data, we get a list of people that share significant amounts of DNA with the unknown suspect.
Moore found a family tree that she was confident contained a killer, and it was Michael Usry's family tree.
He apparently was a split off of the Usry family from something like over 100 years ago.
So we're talking about right family tree, but the branch is way off on the other side.
Way off, yeah.
Did you know anything about this sort of offshoot of your family?
No, totally not.
Now Detective Sage Albright and Captain Bill Squires were laser focused on the men in this way off branch of Usry's family tree.
It had been whittled down to a list of persons that I think was around 10 or 11 people that we were able to reduce down further just because they weren't in Idaho at the time, or they were 3 years old at the time.
Left with 6 possible suspects, detectives had to secretly collect their DNA, following them around for days, waiting for discarded cigarette butts, soda cans, or plastic straws. One guy was a tobacco chewer.
The detectives came out, kind of scooped that up. We sent it off to the lab, came back negative. It wasn't the person we're looking for.
Then they started running out of men, and a fear set in.
The thing we were concerned about, is there a child out there that nobody knows about, right? Did someone have a baby and it's not in the genealogy record?
They were right, and this obituary miraculously led C.C. Moore to a missing Usry. This woman, Helen Darnell, had a daughter who was once married to an Usry. After their divorce, a son was born under a different last name, Brian Drips.
When we looked at that name, we realized we had talked to him in the first days of the investigation. He lived across the street from Angie.
I literally said, "You got to be kidding." Brian Drips, he was right across the street. That it took me 23 years when they had it in the first 25 pages of the investigation.
The police report indicates that the day of Angie's murder, a young police officer who was canvassing the neighborhood had briefly questioned a then 31-year-old Brian Drips.
Everyone in that neighborhood got a knock on the door.
Drips denied any knowledge of the crime, and police never asked for his DNA. About 7 weeks after the murder, Drips left Idaho Falls. He was living in Idaho, about 300 miles away, when a cigarette butt linked his DNA to the crime, and detectives picked him up for questioning.
It was obvious he was nervous. He put on a pretty good game face, but his hands started to shake.
For several hours, Drips denied any involvement in Angie's death.
And then when we told him, "Oh, we have your DNA at the crime scene," there was a noticeable change in his demeanor, and eventually he told us that he had been involved.
Detective Albright says Drips also reported that he acted alone. That meant Chris Tapp could not have been there. 2 months after Drips was arrested, Tapp was back in court.
There's clear and convincing evidence the defendant was convicted of a crime for which he did not commit.
This time to be fully exonerated. This case is the world's first exoneration by way of genealogical DNA testing.
I'm extremely happy for him. I hope that he can piece together his life again.
But Usry says he still has doubts about the use of genealogy.
Kind of a scary thing to me to think about what this world is going to be like if all of our genetic codes are in a computer database. Once it's in a computer, that's almost like more permanent than carving something in stone nowadays. But I think that we really, really need to be cautious and take a step back and look at this technology.
Carol Dodge disagrees.
Without technology, without genealogy research, we would have never found Angie's killer. It is the key that opens the door to justice.